After posting the last post, I decided to do a bit more exploring. I held the new red knife that I found and also took the plus-shaped key with me. I moved to the third door on the left, which had a plus-shaped keyhole. I inserted the key into the keyhole cautiously and slowly turned it to the right. I heard the door click open and slowly opened the door and stepped inside the hotel room. I held my knife in front of me. The room had an antique vibe to it. There were candles set around the room, and the whole room was in shades of red. The wood in the middle of the bed was brownish red, the walls were whitish red, the carpet was crimson red, the blankets and bed sheets were red too. The room felt warm. The only light sources in the room were the candles placed around the room and also a big crystal chandelier that also held candles. The candles seemed to never blow out or melt. The room was lit in most areas, yet the candles created shadows in the corners of the rooms. I felt as if I had stepped into the same room as in the Middle Ages. I cautiously walked around the room and reached for the side tables on either side of the king-sized bed. Faint whispers I couldn't even make out filled my head. I stepped back quickly. The whispers didn't dissipate. They didn't come from anywhere in particular, they were just inside my head. The most unnerving thing about them was that I couldn't even make out a single word. The whispers seemed to be in English, due to the faint syllables that I could hear. It was different from the whispers I had heard earlier. I steeled myself and stepped back into the room. The whispers increased, and it felt like my head was filled with static, like I was listening to hundreds of people whispering at the same time. It was driving me to the breaking point, but I continued to walk into the room. I opened the first drawer on the side table and found a red feather inside. I picked it up thinking it would be useful. My vision started to get blurry and I couldn't think straight because of the whispers. I just shouted, "Stop!" at the top of my voice. Everything went silent. The silence was euphoric, but it only lasted a few moments. I heard a low growl from outside in the hallway. I quickly ran to the door as I had left it open. I just closed it when suddenly I saw the creature that the roar belonged to. The creature was devoid of color. It had no color. I can't even describe it. The creature was the color of deep space. But even space has a color. It was the total absence of light. It had pulsating skin that absorbed all light that hit it. To my eyes, it seemed like a humanoid-shaped black spot. A total absence of matter. Kind of like a black hole. I was startled by its appearance and was a bit late in closing the door. It managed to put one of its limbs through the door just before I closed it shut. I tried to crush the creature's limbs with the door, but it felt like trying to crush concrete. I jabbed at the creature's limbs with the red knife I had found. The creature then howled. It was a unique sound, one that made the hairs on the back of my neck stand up. Thick black liquid oozed out of the creature's hands, although I couldn't see the cuts I had made. The creature pulled its arm out of the door gap, and I quickly shut the door. I locked it with the plus-shaped key and moved the chair in front of it. The creature continued to howl. I covered my ears with my hands to block out the migraine-inducing sound, but I could still hear it. I heard it go further and further away until the howls were only a faint whisper. Immediately the whisper started up again in my head, and I knew I had to get out of this room. I took the feather I had found with me, and also picked up a red handbag I had found on one of the couches to store all my stuff in. I held out my knife in front of me and stepped towards the door to venture out into the hallway again, when I noticed a window in the room. The window was wide open. The reddish-purplish sky matched with the tone of the room so well that I nearly didn't see it. Unlike every window in this place, the window wasn't sealed shut. I looked out the window and noticed that I was on ground level. I moved back from the window and the world I saw outside the window changed faster than the blink of an eye. Once again I saw the sky and it signified that I was at least 10 stories up. I moved closer to the window and looked out, and once again I was on ground level. I could easily climb out of the window and get out of this building. At least that's what it seemed like. I knew it was impossible that the room was on ground level. After all, every other window that I had looked out of showed that I was very high up. But this open window showed the complete opposite. I decided to test the window before I jumped out of it. I picked the red feather as it seemed like the most useless of all the items I had gathered, and dropped it out the window. It landed on the ground and didn't fall down 10 stories, just like my eyes showed me. But then, why does it look like I'm high up when I look at the window from far away? I chalked it up to the general weirdness of this world. Nothing works the same here. Maybe it's possible for this to occur here. Or maybe my eyes are just fooling me. Maybe I'm not seeing things right. After all, the human eye isn't really adapted to seeing in this world. That would also explain why I couldn't see the color of the creature, just like we can't see much of the electromagnetic spectrum. Maybe we can't see matter in this world correctly. This could also explain why the hallway is so dark at the end, why my torch can't illuminate the hallway. The window is my only way of escaping this building and redoing the elevator ritual. Perhaps it'll take me back to Earth. Is the window a risk worth taking? I read all your comments from my last post and saw that pretty much everyone was telling me not to leave from the window. However, I believe that it is my only exit. Nonetheless, I looked around the hallways and the 3 rooms that I could access, and after thinking over it for a long time, I decided that I needed to get out that window. I armed myself with the red knife that I found, and also took the journal that I found in the bedroom with me. It may come in handy. I put my leg over the leg of the window and felt the ground. Yes, the ground was there. I quickly then swung my whole body over the window and was outside for what felt like the first time in weeks. I could now see the rest of the demented dimension. The city was just like it was back in our reality, except the buildings were run down and dark. The sky was the same purplish, reddish, rich color, and the red cross took the place of the sun. The place was rather dark, like a dim room. Suddenly the hairs on the back of my neck stood up and I had a strong feeling that something was looking at me. I looked around and noticed them. From the windows of the rundown buildings, the beings of this dimension were staring at me. They had a humanoid shape, but all their body parts were in wrong proportions. Their eyes were bright red and shone like lighthouses from behind those dark windows. I didn't give them any more time to stare at me, and quickly started running back towards the entrance of the building. I heard the beings all howl as they jumped out of their windows and started chasing me. I didn't look back. I quickly entered the building and made it for the elevators. The doors were wide open, and I quickly rushed into the elevator and punched a button in the 426210-5 order. I watched the monsters come in. The doors closed a split second before the monsters came in. I prayed to God that I will return to my world. I held my breath as the elevator made it back to the ground floor, and the elevator doors opened. I nearly jumped when I saw Corey and Ethan grinning at me. "We thought you got stuck. Come on, we have to get home. That was boring," they said as they pulled me along with them. For the past few weeks or so, everything seems different. There are small changes everywhere that are driving me crazy. Sometimes, just as I'm falling asleep, I can see shadows moving in my peripheral vision. Have I returned?